Everyone ready? I'd like to call the Monday, October 4, 2021 Oakwood City Council meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me with the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please, Lori?
Mayor Duncan?
Here.
Vice Mayor Byington?
Here.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
Mrs. Hilton?
Here.
Mrs. Turbin?
Here.
This has been a very bad week for the city of Oakwood. And at this time, I would like to ask Chief Hill to come up and address council for a few minutes along with the citizens of Oakwood.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Last Tuesday, we suffered the sudden loss of one of our own, Public Safety Officer Jesse Schaffer. It's been a very trying week for the organization and the members, but what I can tell you, there's a lot of resiliency with the members of this department. You know, as I've navigated my way through this process, there's really two things that I've learned. One, regardless of how prepared you think you are to go through something like this, you're really not. Because when you get a call, like I got a call last Tuesday, and reality sets in, it's really, it's a moment to reflect, I can tell you that. The second thing is you never go through something like this alone. And because of many out there, I haven't. Mr. Klops, the city manager, has been an unbelievable support. Captain Przynski, who's in the back behind me. Last Tuesday when Captain Przynski and I talked and he said, "What do you need?" I said, "I need you to run the department." You know, being a small organization as chief, I'm involved in a lot of day-to-day operations that maybe a larger community the chief's not involved in. Ever since that moment, I haven't had to worry about the day-to-day operations because Captain Przynski's taking care of that for us. Lieutenant Chuck Balaj on the other side of it has been by my side from day one, or moment one, I guess I should say, going through this experience with me. He's been invaluable. There's a lot of other members of the department, Officer Rob Wilson, Casey Ballinger, Greg Ortel, Steve Norris have been very instrumental, and I know I'm forgetting several others, but I want them to all know I greatly appreciate each and every one of them and everything they've done over the past week. You know, we're a dedicated department to the community we serve, and I think over the last week that has shown that. The men and women of this organization know we're here to service before self in a time of mourning. We're still honoring our oath and our mission, vision, and values of an organization. So with that being said, when I first met Jesse, it was during his interview. I was impressed with his record of service at such a young age. Jesse was certified in all three disciplines and had prior work experience as a trooper with the Ohio State Highway Patrol and as a firefighter EMT with both Washington Township Fire Department and Kettering Fire Department. Like so many of us within the safety department, Jesse became a public safety officer so that he could serve as a law enforcement officer as well as a firefighter and an EMT. Furthermore, Jesse joined less than 10% of the citizens of this country who serve in the United States military by serving as a Marine for 6 years. Ronald Reagan once said during a speech, "Some people spend an entire lifetime wondering if they made a difference in the world. But Marines, they don't have that problem." Jesse's service to his country, his state, and local communities epitomize that statement. This week will no doubt be extremely difficult for the members of our department, but as we mourn the loss of Jesse, we will no doubt lean on and support one another. You know, and I'll just kind of end with this with Jesse, because I always had a running joke with him. Everybody has benchmarks or milestones in their careers on different topics. Jesse was the first time I ever felt old. I was the old guy in the room. And the reason why I say that, he was the first person I've ever been involved in a hiring process that was actually born after I graduated high school. So as I told him, I told him from day one, I said, Jesse, I've never felt so old in my life until we hired you. So as I go forward in life, it's no longer going to be about how many years I've graduated high school. It's going to be about celebrating the life and memory of Jesse Schaffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. City Manager Klops would also like to make some comments to the community and to council.
The first thing I'd like to say is, or I guess is to offer our condolences to Jesse's family and all of his friends, all those who knew him. Obviously, this is an extremely painful event, and our heart goes out to the family. I know the chief, under his leadership, has done a lot in reaching out to the family. The mayor and I met some of the family last week, and we will carry them in our hearts for a long, long time. The second thing I want to say is that our organization remains strong. Each of us, not just in the Public Safety Department, but within all the departments, knew of Jesse in different ways. I knew him as a man of few words. He didn't say a lot, but every time I saw him, which was fairly frequently, he had the smile on his face, the smile that you have seen. And whatever pain he was carrying, he unfortunately hid it, and we just did not see it. And I'm going to remember him with that smile. I have been, obviously, as you know, with this organization for a long time, and I've seen our staff rise to the occasion whenever needs arise with fellow employees. And while, you know, like any familial sort of organization, we all don't always get along every day, I can tell you with absolute certainty that when the chips are down, no matter what the circumstances, this one being particularly difficult, our staff, again, from all departments, comes together and supports one another, and I've witnessed that over the last 6 days. That's a beautiful thing. And the last thing I'm going to say is how blessed we are to have a leader like Alan Hill. He was there on scene that night and has been involved in this every day, every minute of every day since then, and will continue to work with the family, with our department, with our organization as needed as we go forward. And there aren't enough words for me to say tonight to speak to the character and the natural leadership skills that this man has that has helped us get this far and will help us and Jesse's family navigate the days, weeks, and months ahead. So, Chief, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. On behalf of City Council, I can tell you that, you know, I witnessed, you know, the outstanding caliber of people that we have in our Public Safety Department. And at this time, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Jesse Schaffer and his family, please. Thank you very much, and thank you for all the officers that are here in attendance tonight, that are on call, and maybe some of you that are not on call that came. I know we're having, there's a viewing for him tomorrow and then a service on Wednesday morning, so I know a lot of you will be in attendance, and I will probably plan on attending as well. So, again, thank you for your support, and we really appreciate all your efforts on behalf of our fine city. With that, I guess we will go back to our meeting, and I will ask Councilmember Hilton if she has a report on our minutes of our September 20 regular session, work session, and executive sessions.
I do, Your Honor. I've reviewed the minutes from all three meetings, and I found them to be correct and complete, and therefore I move that they be adopted as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. On a more positive note, we do have under status reports another public safety officer recognition. I know if you recall last month we honored Captain Prudzinski for life-saving efforts, and we have another officer we'd like to give some special recognition to today. And Chief Hill, I'll have you back to the podium.
For those of us in the room, before I transition to the recognition of Detective Bollinger, Jesse's crew is the crew members that stand behind me tonight. So I think it's important to acknowledge them. They work side by side with him every third day. Spent a lot of time with him. So my thoughts are with them every minute of every day, because I know it's a very trying time for them right now. So I'd be remiss not saying that. With that being said, last month, when we recognized Captain Prudzinski, we were also scheduled to recognize Detective Bollinger, but she had more important things to do, like be on vacation. So here we are a few weeks later. On August the 7th, in the early morning hours, I received a phone call notifying me that during the overnight time period, we had an attempted burglary and burglary in the city of Oakwood. We actually received a call from a resident who was out of state who said that somebody's actively trying to break into my house. Well, how do you know that? Because they were watching the event unfold on their exterior surveillance cameras, and it was live while it was happening. So we had officers respond to the scene, and those subjects had fled. Later on that morning, very early morning hours, we had another resident who was out for a jog who located 3 firearms in a purse and a flower and basically a landscaping bed. From there, we got a second call from that resident notifying us of the property, and about that time in the early morning hours is when Detective Bollinger got involved. We got some pretty good suspect information right off the bat, but while Detective Bollinger was initially investigating the case, we also became aware that the same people matching the description in our 2 incidents overnight were also involved in some significant serious incidences or events in the city of Kettering. One to include a home invasion where they actually threatened to harm people if they didn't comply with their orders. Very young kids, very significant event in the middle of the night encountering individuals. Detective Bollinger immediately went to work, and as you hear the little one, and for us in the room to see the little one and to see her husband in the back here, when you get a call like this, a lot of times people don't realize the personal sacrifices that are involved. Because of this call went out at about 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I think Detective Bollinger got home probably about 10 or 11 o'clock that night, and she was home, and she was back in the office at 8 o'clock the next morning. And you lose a lot of quality time, but that just shows the dedication and the commitment to the job. You know, as a detective, I've said this often. I said it's not about the information you receive; it's about what you do with it once you receive it. You know, and kind of in a financial rationale, you give one guy $1 million and they're broke in a week, and you give another guy $1 million and they turn it into 10. Well, Casey turned this into about 25 because of her, Lieutenant Lambert and several others worked diligently throughout the day. They ended up authoring and executing a couple search warrants in the village of Lewisburg. They ended up arresting 2 subjects, got a full confession out of one of them, recovered property that was stolen in the house, and ultimately led to a criminal indictment of a whole slew of very significant and serious charges against these 2 subjects. And with that being said, I would like to read into the record a letter of recognition to Detective Casey Bollinger. On August 7th, during the overnight hours, the Oakwood Safety Department received a call from a resident who reported that 2 subjects were attempting to break into her residence. The resident is out of the area but watching the incident unfold on their exterior surveillance cameras. Street officers quickly arrived on the scene, but the subjects fled. A description of the suspects was obtained from the surveillance video. Later the same morning, the Oakwood Public Safety Department received a call from another resident who reported finding 3 firearms in a purse and a flower bed on Thruston Boulevard. Subsequent investigation revealed that an overnight burglary occurred in a residence in close proximity to this location, and the firearms were stolen from this residence. Furthermore, additional crimes were reported being committed in the city of Kettering, to include a home invasion, which the description of the suspects matched the same description of the individuals captured on the surveillance video. Over the next several hours, Detective Bollinger, with assistance from the Kettering Police Department and the Tactical Crime Suppression Unit, began working the investigation and were quickly able to positively identify the individuals involved. Detective Bollinger authored 2 search warrants, and subsequently these warrants were executed in the village of Lewisburg, resulting in the arrest of Keon Taylor and Blade Root. Detective Bollinger's hard work and dedication on this case led to the felony criminal indictment against Taylor and Root for the charges to include aggravated robbery, aggravated burglary, kidnapping, and burglary. It is my pleasure to award Detective Bollinger this letter of recognition for her professionalism, hard work, and dedication. Thank you for a job well done. And I'll just close with this. This has been a particularly hard week for Detective Bollinger because we've never hired a Ohio State Highway Patrol trooper before we hired Detective Bollinger, so she actually worked with Jesse in different posts, but she's known Jesse professionally for several years, even before he came here. She's been very instrumental in dealing with the family and some of that liaison between here and the Ohio State Highway Patrol. So I appreciate everything she's done for us over the last week as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Casey. I know that we constantly talk about how Oakwood is a very safe community, and the reason that it is a very safe community is because of people like you and all the folks that are in the back of the room. We have the best public safety department in the area, if not the entire state, and their dedication is why Oakwood is the safest community in Montgomery County. And she and I go way back too. We judged the dog show this summer, but we appreciate not only your efforts as a public safety officer, but also your community service. So thank you very much. You are deserved of this congratulations and recognition. Thank you. That concludes our status reports. This is the time for our visitors section, and I believe we have a person who wishes to address council regarding a homelessness prevention program. Is that person here in the audience? If so, hi, come on down. If you could state your name and address for the record, we welcome you.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I appreciate it. My name is Aaron Prim. My address is 1129 Sugar Maple Loop
Thank you.
Road, Tip City, Ohio. And I'm from the city of Dayton. Our address there is 371 West 2nd Street in downtown Dayton, Ohio. I've got to first stop and say our sincerest condolences to all of you here in the city of Oakwood, as well as the safety officers in the passing of Officer Schaefer. Very difficult times. At the Dayton Mediation Center, what we do at the end of the day, we are neutral third-party support people in difficult circumstances. And so when individuals are able to come to us or have the volition to do so, we can support them in having those conversations with each other. Not all the time do people want to talk to each other because conflict is difficult. So we talk to them individually about whatever those circumstances are, certainly not telling them what to do or how they should think about things, but supporting them as they flesh out those ideas, because in the midst of conflict, it's difficult to think about things. And so we have a variety of programs that we have at the Mediation Center, from supporting unmarried parents in talking about parenting time, to neighbor issues, police referrals, to court-related things such as small claims court within the city of Dayton, also eviction work that certainly happens within the city of Dayton as well that I work with in this program. Also, we have information that has been going out to multiple different courts now, not just within the city of Dayton, the Dayton Municipal Court, but now with the Kettering Municipal Court, Vandalia Municipal Court, and the Montgomery County Municipal Court that distributes cards that go out to every individual where something's been filed, and the property owner also has the ability to take one of the cards as well, and there's an opportunity to mediate, or at least talk about the situation. Certainly, mediation is a voluntary process, and so if, as I said before, one party can choose to or not to participate. And so specifically within this programming I'm here to talk to you tonight about, this is for all the residents of Montgomery County. And so previously I've just operated specifically within the city for the most part. But now that we've got some money from the county, we've been able to expand our services throughout the county to all the residents. And so it's certainly wanted to come out here and make sure that all the residents of Oakwood recognize that our services are here and available and free, which is the biggest thing. And also to recognize that we're not just for residents. Enough times there are people who think that, oh, they're just here to support residents, but we're neutral third parties. And so we're here to support not just residents, but also property owners and whatever the situation is. Also, in those one-on-one conversations that people have with me, there's enough times where they just don't understand all the things that are going on in the situation, and they need some more information. I'm not an attorney or lawyer, and I don't try to play one. Simultaneously, I've been in and around the courts and around judges and magistrates and folks who talk about certain things, and I can talk about the things that I see, not that I know them myself, and just give some more insight to the various other parts of the situations that people may need to know that deals with property management, property owners, residents, and homelessness prevention, generally speaking. For example, rental assistance. Many people, number one, didn't even really know that it exists to the extent that it does. And then, well, how do you apply? Should you go online? Should you call? Well, depending on who you're speaking to, it can vary. So I can help people with that information, help steer them in the right direction. And so, once again, free programming to anyone within the county, certainly free to everyone here in the city of Oakwood. I provide some cards, some rack cards, and so my number is on the front and back of this card. So certainly I can be called anytime to talk about whatever the issue is.
Well, thank you. Are you a separate non-for-profit organization?
So that's a great question, Mayor. We are the city of Dayton. A
You're
very
an agency within the city of Dayton?
Yes, we are within planning and community development, and we are very small, and oftentimes people don't even know we exist, let alone that we're part of the city. So yes, sir.
Are you related to the ombudsman?
We are not related to the
Not
ombudsman.
related to the ombudsman, okay. All right. Other questions for him?
So can you give out some of that information, not only to us, but to the folks watching at home? I mean,
Oh,
is there
absolutely.
a website that they can get to, or?
That's a great question. So certainly they can go to our main website, which is DaytonMediationCenter.org. Once again, DaytonMediationCenter.org, or they can email me directly. My name's Aaron, Aaron, .prim, P as in Paul, R like Robert, I like Igloo, M like Marshall, second M like Marshall, at DaytonOhio.gov.
Great.
Okay, so we got an org and
Right.
the gov in there.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Also, phone number,
Yes.
937-333-2349.
Thank you. That's very helpful because we are being taped on the cable channel, and they will replay our council meetings
Right.
multiple times.
So I'm gonna remember this next time I go out. This is something I should have been doing over and over again. I missed this opportunity.
So Aaron, I have a question. I used to volunteer down there on Saturdays. Do you still use a whole bunch of volunteers, or you have a staff and then some volunteers who come in?
Yes, ma'am. And so certainly what this has looked like, and so what Councilman Hilton is talking about at the Mediation Center, we're a community mediation center, and so the majority of our mediations are done by volunteers. And so we train volunteers. It's about 20 hours of training. And so once we've trained them, then they're able to volunteer cases that we have on Saturday. And so these cases are from 9 to 11, 9 to 12 or so that we start them. And then our volunteers and our co-mediation model, two volunteer mediators, come together and mediate these situations that we have scheduled. And so, yes, we still do this. It still happens on Saturday. Yes, ma'am. Now, we have gone to, depending on the situation, it's been like a hybrid model of sometimes on Zoom, sometimes in person. It depends, but yes, it still exists.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes,
Any other
ma'am.
questions? Well, Aaron, thank you for coming here and
Thanks.
presenting that.
Appreciate
it.
Well,
And
no.
can you give those
Absolutely.
brochures to us, and I'll make sure the other members of council get them. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but you're not required to stay.
That's right.
I appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to address council at this time in our visitor section? If so, please come down to the podium. And seeing none, hearing none, we will close the visitor section. And we have no legislation this evening, but we do have a very interesting staff report from our finance director, Cindy Stafford, CPA. Welcome, Cindy.
I think I closed out of something, so I may not be sharing.
Okay. Well, don't most accountants have the numbers memorized?
Yeah. There it is. Now I got it right, didn't I, Lori? Okay. So good evening, Mayor, City Manager, staff, residents, council, and all those who are watching out there. I'll be brief tonight. My presentation will talk a little bit about 2020, our year-end audit, and how we fared with our year-end audit. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our 2020 Auditor of State STARS program, and then I will just wrap up kind of letting everyone know where we are through September 30th of 2021. So the good news is the city received a clean, unqualified opinion for our 2020 audit. I can honestly say that in the history since audits have been being performed at the city, I don't think we've ever received anything but a clean, unqualified audit. But a clean, unqualified audit really means that the financial statements, which ultimately are the books of the city, are free from any material misstatements, and that there are no material findings regarding internal controls, any performance objectives that the auditors are looking for, as well as any non-compliance with our charter, with our ordinances, and state and federal laws. The city has received the Auditor of State Award again. This is our 9th award over the last 11 years. And the Auditor of State builds upon just the clean audit, and they add a few more items that they look for in order to receive this award. So what they're looking for, in addition to just having a clean audit, is they want to make sure that there's been no ethics referrals within the city, that there's no questionable costs, that the audit report was filed on a timely basis, and that's a statutory timely basis, and that all bank reconciliations are done on a regular basis and there are no issues with those. They also, if we do have a single audit, that there are no issues with our single audit, and they also look at any items out there for recovery of less than $500. And then they also check to make sure that we've met all of our public meetings and our public records request issues. The entity can't have any other type of financial or any other concerns that have been brought to the attention of the Auditor of State. And when it comes to meeting these requirements, as I always say, it's a top-down award. It starts with the leadership of our mayor, our council, to our city manager, to basically staff and everybody in the city. Every year when I do the kickoff at our staff meeting and bring up the fact that the auditors will be here, I remind everybody in that room, all of our department heads, that it's not just a financial audit. The auditors are here, they look at everything. There have been times when they've looked at fingerprint records to make sure that we're sending those to wherever it is in Columbus that those are supposed to get sent to. They look at our public records requests. They'll look at all those kind of things. So they want to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to and that we are the best servants that we can be to the public. And I want to give a special thanks to my finance team. They're the ones that really dot the I's and cross those T's on a daily basis. So I want to give a shout out to Linda Merker, Tracy Martin, Teresa Rushlow, Tracy Davidson, Gloria Corona Luna, and Stacy Vreeland Mathis. I am proud of the efforts that they do every day, and they make my job easier. Before I move on, does anybody want to say anything else or ask any questions about our audit?
Well, you know my opinion on certain GASB statements that are in the audit, but I will not bore everybody with that this evening.
One of the other things that that the Auditor of State started in 2019 is something called the STARS rating system. And you can go out to the Auditors of State office and just on the search bar type in STARS, and this will come up. And basically, what the Auditor of State is saying is that it is their responsibility to make sure that all entities in the state of Ohio are following the sunshine laws, that they're respected and complied with at every level. And when I say the sunshine laws in the state of Ohio, I'm referring to two particular. It's the Ohio Public Records Act as well as the Open Meetings Act. The Ohio Public Records Act requires that a public office make public records available for inspection or copying, and the time required for a response depends on the type of the request. One, whether it's just to inspect the records, or two, whether that is to actually want copies are requested of those records. And so then, depending upon that, you have a certain amount of time which are considered reasonable to meet those. And so if you go out there, the state of Ohio, the auditor's office basically ranks entities with 1 to 4 stars. 4 stars obviously being the highest achievement of open government and transparent government. And so if you go further into there and search for the city of Oakwood, and I put the website up there for the auditor's office, you will find that the city of Oakwood in 2019 and 2020 received 4 stars. 4 stars, again, being the highest achievement in open and transparent government. If you actually click on the 3 stars to the right of the 1 star, you will find that the state of Ohio has designated what they consider 7 best practices. And so by meeting all of those best practices, obviously, it takes 5 to 7 of those in order to receive that highest. And if you'll notice, this is for the city of Oakwood. We have 1 box that's not checked. As soon as we got the results from 2019, which we got in 2020, about June of 2020, we noticed that one of those best practices that we had never heard of was that we were supposed to actually be acknowledging the fact that someone may have emailed to us a public records request. And with an acknowledgement, what they were looking for was basically us responding back with an email saying, we've received your request and we anticipate meeting that request in whether it be hours, days, whatever the response would be. A lot of those public records do come to finance. When I get those, I try to really respond to those as long as I'm not in the middle of something immediately. And so what we were doing is a lot of those responses went out almost immediately, not realizing that we actually needed to say in there that we still needed to acknowledge it. So we've added a sentence to our response that happens immediately that says, attached you'll find your request, and this email also is notification that we acknowledge yours. So my hope is that when we see our results for 2020, we'll have all those boxes checked. Oops. One last thing I wanted to say when it comes to all of this is all of this information is available for the most part out on our city website. Everything that we do that meets many of these requirements, you can find out there. When it comes to various meeting minutes, meeting agendas, all of that information is out there. So I really want to encourage everyone that has the opportunity to go out there, take a look at the city website. I know that Lori, our clerk of council, is key in putting all of this information out there. And I know she tries very hard to make sure that all of that information is out there and available so that we can continue with our open and transparent governance.
Could I say something before you go on to?
Absolutely.
One of the things that you will occasionally read about in the Dayton papers when local governments or school boards are having issues, a lot of it relates to open meetings and public records request. And I think that that's another thing that starts at the top, and this council takes those 2 particular state laws very seriously, and our predecessors also took them seriously. And so that is part of our culture here in the city of Oakwood, that we believe in open and transparent government. So thank you.
And to wrap up my presentation, I'm just going to give you a little idea of where we are through September 30th of 2021. Our general city services, that includes everything except our refuse, our water, our sanitary sewer, and our stormwater. And so one would expect at this point in time, if you're going to compare it and do a linear line to the budget, we would be at about 75% of our budget at this point in time. And if you notice, our receipts currently sit around 97.12%, which is fantastic. That's really the result of three main items. The first one being is we did receive $468,000 of unbudgeted revenue receipts from the American Rescue Plan Act. We will also receive another $468,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act next year as well. Next year, I do have it in the budget as receiving that $468,000. But for this year, we did not know that was coming when we did the budget last year, so it is unbudgeted revenue. It's very restricted revenue, so we are working through all the various restrictions that come with that. So at this point in time, we've not attached any projects or anything to that, to those funds, and again, they're fairly restrictive. The other two pieces involve income taxes and real estate taxes. And both of those are significantly partly as a result of timing and how things are timed. When it comes to income taxes, our income taxes are due April 15th this year. It got moved to June 15th. Hopefully next year it'll be back to April 15th. But because of that, the bulk of our income taxes come in that April-May timeframe. Right now, income taxes are 95% of our $8.5 million budget, although I do anticipate we'll end the year probably higher than budget. When it comes to real estate taxes, most of us know that real estate taxes are paid in February and July. Those real estate taxes are paid to the county. It takes the county about 2 months to reconcile those. They then turn the bulk of those over to us in the April and September timeframe. Hence, real estate taxes being at 105% of budget. So we're already over budget in that. But I will, a little side note, the county, when it goes through their process and they look at our budgets, they're anticipating a collection rate of about 95%. Here in Oakwood, our collection rate is a little higher than that. But they expect us to use that 95% collection rate when it comes to budgeting. So I fully anticipate that our real estate tax collections will be slightly above budget every year because our collection rate is closer to that 98% collection. If we look at disbursements, at this point in time, our disbursements and encumbrances are exactly where we would expect them to be. I would anticipate at year end that our revenues will be slightly higher than budget, and that excludes the unbudgeted American Rescue Plan monies. I also anticipate that by the end of the year that our disbursements and encumbrances will probably be very close to what we budgeted. The next two are very simple. We get to refuse, and if you look at the refuse fund, both revenue and disbursements and encumbrances are very close to that 75% mark. There really hasn't been any unusual items in our refuse fund this year. So I expect those to be at this point, and I think we'll end the year very close to budget on those as well. And finally, I've combined our water, sanitary, sewer, and stormwater all together. And again, if we look at those, they're both close to that 75% mark, which again is where we would expect them to be. And I anticipate those to come very close to budget by the time we hit year end.
How many slides did you eliminate by doing that?
At least two.
At least two.
Well, kudos for sure.
Yes. Cindy, question? On that right there, do you know, and I don't need exact numbers, of course, approximately where numbers came in compared to 2019 due to COVID with people working at home? I remember we talked about it last year that, more water was used, people were home more, whatever the reason was, taking care of their yards more, watering more, hotter summer, but then people were home more, and they were
and we were using more water.
Yeah, was there a big change this year so far through the summer months and through,
A
through
little
quarters? Have
less,
you
but
noticed
not,
it?
yeah, a little less than it was last year, but
Okay.
tracking pretty close to what we budgeted. I'm going to bump the numbers a little bit because of where we were tracking last year
Okay.
with anticipation of the fact that we still have a lot of folks still working from home.
Sure.
So,
Okay, no significant change, though. Okay, thank you.
anything else?
Other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for that report. It's not the only bit of good news we've had this week, but yes, we appreciate your efforts on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Sydney.
I think Vice Mayor Byington has an Oakwood moment for us. Is that correct?
We have the video. Tonight's Oakwood moment is an event that's not necessarily unique to Oakwood, but it's an event that Oakwood has truly embraced and kind of made it its own. It's the concept of a block party, and it's my understanding that in the city of Oakwood we have roughly 30 to 40 block parties a year. It's often said that one of the most important building blocks of a strong community is start with a strong family unit, but then a vibrant and inclusive neighborhood is probably very close to that in terms of building communities. When you have these block parties, it's an opportunity for neighbors to come together to share camaraderie, interaction, and develop some friendships that generally last a lifetime. I know I've got neighbors that have moved away that I still talk to on a regular basis. So block parties are an important part of the Oakwood tradition, and if we can get the video up, we just wanted to show some highlights of one of the block parties. This was Volusia Avenue's block party, and I think it happened in August. Is that correct? But we'll get the video going here.
I forgot to share the sound.
Oh, well, it's just music, I think. Well,
Oh, did I miss it again? Sorry about that.
no worries.
The only one could understand
As you can see from that video, we are very fortunate that our public safety officers always get out and participate where they can. I'd like to recognize Lieutenant Damian Baggett, PSO Ryan Wells, and PSO Josh Wells, not related, for going out there, talking with the kids, letting them play with the fire hose, getting inside the cruiser and that kind of stuff. I know it's always a highlight for the kids to have those officers show up, and it's good for the parents to have that interaction with the public safety officers as well. So if you're interested in having block parties, contact the city and they will give you all the details on how to make that happen. We have barricades that we set up for the blocks, and we notified the neighbors. So,
Very
with
good.
that, yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Byington. It is now time for our city manager's report.
Yes, good evening. A couple quick updates. If anyone drives down Schaefer Boulevard past our Public Works yard and looks inside the gate there, why they will have seen a significant amount of work taking place the last 4 weeks. We are constructing a retaining wall extension that will provide the space for what will be our relocated recycling facility drop-off. And we're very excited for about this project. The wall will be completed sometime this week, and then over the next probably 6 to 8 weeks, there will be a series of different parts of what we call the site work being done, driveway aprons built, some concrete curbing put in, asphalt pavement done, a street light needs to be relocated, as does a fire hydrant, and some fencing put up. And when it's all done, which we hope will be sometime in maybe late November or early December, why the drop-off, which is for the last decade plus, has been at the dog park parking lot, the Krieger Field parking lot. It will be relocated to the front entrance of the Public Works yard, and it'll be a much easier place to maneuver in and out of and drop off debris, and it also will free up the Krieger Field lot for those who are interested in taking their dog to the dog park, and so they won't have to compete with those dropping off recyclables. So it's a very neat project, and we're excited to finish that this fall. Very importantly, in Oakwood is our annual leaf collection program, and that begins a week from today on October 11th and continues for a 10-week period through December 17th. We usually extend it a couple weeks after that, just depending on the way the leaves fall and everything, but technically it's a 10-week program. Every 2 weeks we pass by each property and collect up the leaves that are placed out by the curb or directly into the gutter. There's additional information about that, including the map on our city website, and it's also published in the Oakwood Sea newsletter that everyone should have received over the last few days. And I'll conclude my comments by thanking our finance director, Cindy. She mentioned that her high-quality staff makes her life easy. Well, I'll say that the quality of our finance director, Cindy Stafford, CPA, makes my life easier. And you've heard me say before, I oftentimes view my job as being kind of has two primary parts to it. One is to provide resources, which I fundamentally get through you appropriating the annual budget, and secondly, to remove obstacles. And if I don't do those two things well, then our department heads flourish, and Cindy is a prime example of that. So thank you, Cindy, for all you do. And I will conclude my comments tonight by just announcing, and I hope you don't mind, that Cindy, who has 3 boys, one of which is a police officer for the city of Mason. And Cindy and I have talked, as you might imagine, over the last week about the events that we've been through here. And it goes without saying that being a police officer in America these days is a tough, tough job. And being the parent of a police officer is equally tough. And so my hat's off to Cindy and her husband Kevin and their son John for what he does for the city of Mason, and for all those who serve as police officers across our country. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for city manager? All right. We will now go to council comments. Councilmember Turbin.
Yes, briefly. November 2nd, less than a month away, and I want to remind you all to get out and vote. You know, it's really that tradition of citizen involvement that defines Oakwood, and it starts at the polls, so November 2nd, go vote.
Thank you. I believe you can also do absentee voting before that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, today was actually the deadline to
Register.
To register, right.
Councilmember Hilton.
No comments, Your Honor.
Councilmember Stevens.
Just one quick announcement that Sunday, October 31st, will be here before we know it, and obviously it's not only Halloween, but it's trick or treat in Oakwood and across many other communities. So from 6 to 8 p.m. on Sunday, October 31st, the wonderful trick or treat celebration will happen here in our town.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Byington.
Yeah, several comments. Just wanted to reinforce what Councilmember Turbin mentioned. I always do this a month in advance of the election, but it's really important that you go out there and do your homework. I used to say do your research, but sometimes I'm not really sure that folks necessarily do that. But I encourage you to go out there, talk to as many folks as you can. No candidate worth their salt is worth electing if they're not willing to talk to you about the issues. So I encourage everybody to reach out to any of the people who are running for whatever office and get your questions answered. I wanted to thank Jennifer Wilder for the shred event that we had recently. It was a little bit of a rainy day, but she was out there in her bright yellow slicker, making sure that all of the folks that participated were from the city of Oakwood. Also, big thanks to all the public works staff who were there helping out. I think it was a very successful event. I know I got rid of a bunch of junk. Also, this weekend is the Fall Festival, and that is from 2 to 5. Many of you might know I play vintage baseball. My nickname in vintage baseball is Scarecrow. So definitely check out the Scarecrow Row. I get the pleasure of being one of the judges again this year, so I'm looking forward to all the creative ideas that come up with that. And then finally, I wanted to wish a very happy anniversary to my wife, my lovely wife, Beth. Tomorrow is our anniversary. As been mentioned, with folks working from home since March of 2020, both of us have been working from home, and it has just reinforced exactly how much I made the right choice. So I love you, Beth. Happy anniversary.
And how many years have you been
It
married?
is 8 years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember their reception was at Dayton Dragons Ballpark.
That's exactly
That
right.
was one of the coolest wedding receptions I've ever gone to.
Thanks.
All righty. I have no comments this evening. Again, please keep the family of Officer Schaffer in your prayers. And our next meeting will be on Monday, November 2nd, the day before Election Day. So with that, we are adjourned.